Welcome back to another video. My name is Aaron and I help people expand their consciousness. Now in this video, I'll be sharing with you how to change your default frequency to then attract what you want. Now I know that the word frequency can sometimes bring about a little bit of resistance because there's not necessarily, sounds like something that's kind of new agey, but with frequency, the context that I'm using it for this video is understanding what we call our vibe, or the compilation of our thoughts, the compilation of our emotions, and the actions that we're taking. In general, who we are being in the present moment. Now, when we come to understand that those three things, those three pillars are combining to then give us a certain level of perception. We are always getting circumstances in our life that continue to perpetuate similar reflections. We attract similar people in our life that reaffirm those beliefs that we have and that really just reaffirm the state of being that we're in. We see that most of our vibe, most of our frequency is what will always get a certain reflection in our life. So in order to really become aware of this, there's certain steps I'm going to give you, 3-step process that we can apply to change our default frequency. Now also think of frequency as the state of being that we are in. The state of being that we're in has very much to do with what we experience, because if we are feeling a certain way, we may not even perceive of opportunities that are in front of us if we remain in the other state. It's almost like we must resonate with the kind of experience in order to perceive of it. And an example of this might be if you are at work, for example, and you're in a certain state of being. Maybe you feel like you're in the victim mode because something that just happened, and somebody comes up to you. It's like almost the interaction that could be won't be the same, because in a way we're closed off from that mentality and perception of believing that we're in that victim mode. So the idea behind this is knowing that our vibe, our frequency will always have a certain range, and part of that has to do with the emotion. So you may be majority a very positive or a very happy person, but you'll have spikes of feeling less than that sometimes, and you'll have spikes of feeling blissful or ecstatic at the same time or at different times. And for somebody, for example, that's maybe more of depressed more often, they may have spikes of feeling happy, but then they always may go down back to that depressed state. So the idea behind this is understanding how can we raise that default state in any area of our life. It could be the general state of how we feel. It could be our beliefs about money, or our beliefs about our physical health, or our relationships. In any level of it, how can we change our frequency or change our state of being to then perceive and get a new reflection in our life? So first off, it's about realizing that any possible reality we can imagine is an anchor point, and for us to be able to then almost download that into a part of who we are. So download that as a memory, realizing that if you were to think right now of the version of you that is living very happily, that is doing your passion for a living, if you begin to imagine that, imagine what you'd be doing and understand that that reality exists right now in this moment, and that the only reason you are not experiencing that is due to the actions that you're taking, the thoughts that you're thinking, the emotions that you have. You then see that you can use that as a model, you can use that as an example of how you must be in order to get that same reflection in your life. So it's a very powerful understanding. It's something that I've definitely used, being able to imagine the best version of myself and then embodying those characteristics, those actions that I'd be taking in order to then experience the reflection that I prefer to get in my life. So the 3-step process I have for you has first off to do with the simple awareness of what your vibe is, of where you are presently in the moment right now. You may think and understand that most of your vibe, maybe you're a generally happy person, but you find that there's a lot of times that you feel like you're dragged down by other people. Or maybe you realize that a lot of times you have a perspective that just thinks that you're a very sad person, and that there's a victim mentality there, and that things just always happen to you. Whatever the perspective is, just become aware. Don't necessarily get attached to the label, but when you become aware that that is the dominant frequency that you have, that's the first step. And an easy way to also know this is if you were to go around friends or family or people in general that have a different frequency or vibration, you'll then very quickly pick up on where you sit in relation to them. And for example, like if I were to go out and see somebody that had more of a negative mindset and they were talking to me, that would almost reaffirm my more like energetic mindset, because it would almost like that contrast allows me to know. So a powerful way to do that is to go out and be around other people that are a little bit different, and then kind of reflect and have that ping back to you as to where your frequency is. Now, the second step for this is to simply become aware of your desired frequency. Now, this could be the exercise we did a minute ago, where you can imagine the best version of yourself doing exactly what you want to be doing in your life. And as you see what you'd be doing, the kind of thoughts you'd constantly have, the emotions that you would predominantly have, the actions you would take, you can then realize and see that as a desired state that you have. That will be a symbol that you can use in order to know that you must model the same behaviors in order to then experience that as to a part of who you are. Now, the third step has to do with setting a trigger. Now, the trigger is that second step that we just did of knowing your desired outcome and the desired frequency that you'd like to have, and knowing and setting a trigger for you to feel that and to embody that more throughout the day. So let me share with you how I use this in my own life, and it has to do with doing a 20-minute meditation in the morning. And for the first 10 minutes, normally what I'll do is like a more observation of my thoughts. I bring the awareness more to being present to the moment, and as I do that, it brings me into a state of presence. Then for the next 10 minutes, what I'll do is anchor in who I prefer to be. I'll anchor in the desired outcomes I have, and as I do that, that's the part of the process of creating that trigger. Now, you can do this just starting out maybe once in the morning and once at night, just for 5 or 10 minutes. And what we're going to do for this is we're going to infuse a little bit of what is called NLP. Now, NLP is called neuro-linguistic programming, and it's just really the ability to use the power of our minds and our language to influence the kind of way, the meta models that we have for the world, the way that we perceive what we experience. And this is something like Tony Robbins uses a lot. It's something that's really powerful tool, and I've been using it a lot lately. But what I thought we would do is we would infuse it into this trigger and to understanding how we can make it more powerful. So what I'd like you to do is to become very specific as to a certain scenario that will act as a symbol for you to download this frequency more into your life. Now, this is kind of a metaphor, but imagine the best version of yourself in a certain experience. Maybe it's you doing what you want for a living, and maybe you get to travel, you want to travel the world, and like me, for example, somebody that wants to speak and talk about, and maybe in front of the public and like lectures or like having an audience, I would imagine myself on stage and speaking to other people, and I would imagine what that would feel like. I'd imagine what it's like to share that kind of information, and that would be my specific example of being able to put myself in that state of being, of the body language that I'd have, of the way I would present myself, of the thoughts and the emotions I would predominantly have. Now, in the same way, what is that scenario for you? Maybe it's being and doing something that's very athletic. Maybe it's presenting your art at an art display. Maybe it's being like a business executive, or it's being a manager. Whatever it is, imagine a specific scenario with that can act as a symbol for you that gets that state of being within you. Now, even if right now it seems kind of hard for you to just generate the state like that from that image, realize that with time it will get easier. But we're more of just using this as a way for us to have that symbol that represents that state of being. Now, what I want you to do, and the NLP that we're going to use right now, is I want you to imagine that reality, imagine it in full detail of what it would be, maybe a specific example. Now what I want you to do is to imagine that you are looking and you're like at a theater and you are watching the movie and you are seeing yourself looking through your own eyes as if you are there, you're going into the screen and you are then acting it out. And now what we can do is we can visualize it as if it were getting brighter and brighter and brighter. Imagine it as like a small screen that we're seeing through, and then it becomes a little bit bigger and more clear. Then it becomes even bigger and it's very bright and it's something that we see very powerfully. Then it becomes our reality. It becomes just a part of us being in the movie, and we're able to really vividly see everything that's around us. We're able to feel the emotions that we'd feel as if we were there. And what this begins to do is allows us to then bring that experience into our daily experience, into little segments of our day. Now the idea behind this is that visualization exercise of allowing us to take the image that we have in our mind and to let it get bigger and bigger and bigger, and to let it get more bright in color and more concise, allows us to then let it have more power over our subconscious mind. So throughout your day, a very powerful way to download this more into your experience is to do this right when you wake up for a couple minutes in your, maybe if you do meditation or the beginning of your day. Do it at the end of the day as well. And what I found to be powerful is to also place it randomly throughout the day. So maybe if I'm meal prepping, for example, or maybe if I'm waiting for something at an elevator, I'll give it start to do it. Find different times of your days that set triggers for you to use that as a symbol to feel into that, not just to intellectually think, but as you make it bigger and bigger, it becomes easier to then feel into that. Now, those are the 3 steps. Now, the most important thing about this is to make it something that's consistent. Simply decide that that frequency, that vibe is who you are now, and go about and act as if that is who you are. This is a very important part of it, because you'll realize that there are going to be certain things you spontaneously feel called upon to do. The old vibe will begin to lose its momentum, and you'll realize that anytime you feel resistance, a lot of times that resistance is that old vibe trying to keep you tethered to it. Realize and be aware of it, and simply know that now the key is to take action in doing things you haven't done before, stepping outside your comfort zone, realizing that as you start to gain momentum with this new vibe, things will get easier and easier, and then eventually you'll begin to see the reflection of what you want in your life. So remember, as I always say, we don't necessarily get what we want in life, but we always get a reflection of who we are being. This action step, this downloading this emotion as a symbol and doing that over and over again, then helps us to resonate in that state of being so that we can perceive up those opportunities, and then we can act and embody who we prefer to be. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Feel free to like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you guys on the next vid. Peace, much love, namaste. All right, bye.